Hey, what's up, guys? It's Ernest, the host of the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. Man, first of all, let me say thank you guys again for tuning in once again to the podcast. Definitely got another great interview coming your way. Just want to stop and highlight you guys. Make sure you guys are checking us out in the comments. Or should I say in the description, because we have a lot of great information in the descriptions. Also, make sure you take the time to listen. You are listening or watching. Make sure you like and share the podcast. Okay. But again, make sure you guys check out the description. We have a lot of links for some important stuff. Of course, my ebooks, a lot of different things going on with the podcast and with the things that I have going on, but also information about our guests that we want to make sure that you guys check out, whether it's books or any kind of information concerning our guests. We want to make sure you guys go look into the descriptions, whether you're watching on YouTube or whether you're listening on your podcast listening devices. Make sure you go to the descriptions and check out our information there. All right. Talk to you guys in a minute. Let's get to it. Are you looking for inspiration on a daily basis? Then check out Deal to Heal Teas. With our inspirational teas, you're sure to find something to inspire you. That's dealtohealteas.com. Put some inspiration in your situation. Wear inspirational tea and be inspired all day. Let's go to dealtohealteas.com. Again, that's dealtohealteas.com. Hey guys, if you're enjoying this podcast, then I know you enjoy the Girl Dad Discussion podcast. I'm your host, Ernest James, and I believe the relationship between a daughter and her father is one of the most important relationships a young lady can have. And therefore, my mission is to promote the daddy-daughter relationship by sharing the voices of girl dads to the world. So check out our podcast on every platform where podcasts can be listened to. And if you want to watch the podcast, check us out on our YouTube channel. Again, that's the Girl Dad Discussions podcast with your host, Ernest James. Welcome to Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. On this podcast, my guest and I will discuss topics and ways to help us to heal in every area of our lives. I believe that everyone can live a life that is happy, healthy, and whole. So I'm on a mission to help people to deal, heal, and fulfill. Deal with your problem, heal from the pain, and fulfill your purpose. Thanks for tuning in. Let's get to it. Welcome to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. I am your host, Ernest James, and I believe that everyone can and should live a life that is whole, healed, and healthy. And therefore, I'm on a mission to help people to deal, heal, and fulfill, to deal with your problems, heal from the pain, and to fulfill your purpose. Thank you guys once again for tuning in to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. If you haven't already, make sure that you listen, like, subscribe, and share. Don't keep it to yourself, but share it with someone else that the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast is on the air. Also, make sure that you guys check out our new YouTube channel, which is the Deal to Heal Podcasting Network. And it's the Deal to Heal Podcasting Network because we are now bringing you several podcasts. So make sure you guys go to YouTube to the Deal to Heal Podcasting Network in order to check out our podcast, which includes the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast, which you are listening to or watching now, but also the Girl Dad Discussions podcast. On that podcast, I talk to other girl dads and daughters to talk about the relationship, the daddy-daughter relationship, in order to combat the narrative of the absent father and the fatherless daughter. So make sure you guys go and check out that podcast, as well as our other podcasts that we have available on the Deal to Heal Podcasting Network page. Make sure you guys go and check that out. Okay, our product of the week, as you guys know, we are a self-sustained podcast, and the way that we stay on the air is by bringing you amazing products for you to purchase. So, our product of the week this week is our purpose journal, as well as our purpose planner, because I believe we are a journal in order to keep track of where we've been and where we are in our life, as well as plan for our future. So make sure you guys go into the links in the description to get your copy of our purpose journal and our purpose planner. Both of them are available on Amazon. Again, go to the descriptions. There's a lot of great information in the description, including information about our guests. So make sure you guys go there and check that out. All right. So today, just like any other day, we are blessed with the guest, Miss Malaysia. How you doing?
I'm doing well, Ernest. How are you?
I am good. I am good. First of all, let me say thank you for being here, because you could have been doing anything else with anyone else, but you're here with me and my listeners, and we definitely appreciate it. So I wanted to say that. So
Thank you.
no problem, no problem. Plus, I know I told you my granddaughter's name is Malaysia, so I'm always
Yes.
to have
Beautiful
you on.
name.
Yes, yes. So we're gonna jump right in it. Do me a favor, introduce yourself to my audience and tell us a little bit about who you are and what it is that you do.
Thank you again for having me on the Deal to Heal show tonight. It's such an honor and a pleasure to be here. My name is Malaysia Harell, and I am a newly minted veteran. And I am a spiritual transformation coach, a psychotherapist, an author, and a keynote speaker. And so I work to really help women to go from being successful to actually having soul fulfillment. In addition, I am the founder and CEO of Blissful Life Consulting, and we offer holistic wellness solutions to individuals, groups, and communities. And of course, we do it with organizations as well for corporate wellness. And we just offer tailored services and wellness solutions to help people thrive in their environments.
All right, all right. I love it. I love it. First of all, let me say thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for your service. I wanna do me a favor. Let's just start here. Let's go back to the beginning, right? First of all, one thing I definitely want to know. So I always say go back to the beginning, generally because I ask my guests to kind of give us their backstory of what happened to them that actually made them decide to get into this business of helping others, right? A lot of times we have a backstory that's something transformational happens to us, and then it's like, all right, now that I've made it to the other side, I'm going to spend my life helping others. So I definitely want to hear about that. But before we get there, how did you end up going to the service? I wanted to go to the service growing up.
Okay.
My dad's a veteran. I wanted
Okay.
to go to the Marines, but I just never did. By the time I got old enough to go, had some other things going on. Then I got married, had kids, and went on from there. But it was my desire at an early age to go to the Marines. So what was your backstory, the first half of the backstory, to even got you into the service, and how was that for you? And then you could tell us about the transformation of going into the area that you are now.
Okay. Well, again, thank you for this opportunity. And I grew up in Springfield, Massachusetts, where we have the Basketball Hall of Fame. And, I grew up in a very impoverished environment, and it was filled with a lot of trauma, a lot of abuse, emotional abuse, sexual abuse, and emotional abuse. And it was very difficult at that time. I was the oldest of three girls, and I was really raising my sisters because my mom was just really incapacitated at that time. And I ended up moving with my grandmother, my maternal grandmother. And because I was really taken by child welfare services at that time. And so that was around right before I went into junior high school age. And, at that time is when I really started, I lived with a grandmother. So all of us can relate to a grandma's love and her not allowing you to, be down or depressed. Like that just was a no-go. That was a no-go. And she just really, sown a lot of seeds in me. Of course, my great grandmother, her mother as well. And at that time, it was junior high school. I was in, no, middle school, I was in band. And, or was it junior high? I don't know. I think both of them I did band. And then high school. So I was like, what am I going to do with my life? I was working these jobs. I was, from junior high school working at McDonald's. I wasn't going to live in poverty. It made me, say I'm going to live a different life. And at that time, I didn't really understand the power of visualization and the power of faith and manifestation at that time. But that's really what I did. I imagined the life that I wanted to live. So I ended up going into junior ROTC in high school, and it was Air Force. And so I think that was the seeds that were planted because I had an opportunity to learn about leadership and, just really come into my own. And, the support that was given to me at that time, it was just absolutely phenomenal. But guess what? I didn't go in the Air Force at that time. So when it was time to graduate, I went to college, University of Maryland, Amherst. And after that, I didn't, I did 1 year of Air Force ROTC, 1 year of Army ROTC. And then after that, I, would decide I worked for the prison system. I had all these jobs. So bringing us forward, right? How did I get here? How did I transition into the military, a life of service? So I had actually gotten engaged and I had moved from Massachusetts to Maryland. So I transferred. I was in my master's program for clinical social work. So I graduated from the University of Maryland, Baltimore. But guess what? At that time, 9/11 happened. And so I remember being in my internship at the Baltimore Public Defender's Office. And guess what? That day I knew that I was going in the military. I said it. I said that day, I said, I'm going in the military. And so at that time, of course, if you're a clinical social worker, you have to be independently licensed most times. So that takes a couple years to get your real license, And so I actually got accepted into a residency program in the Air Force, which was highly competitive. And I did a whole 20 years and 8 months.
Wow.
And, just I had some great opportunities. I thought I was grown, but I wasn't grown. You go in the Air Force, you go in the military, life just, it teaches you some things. You don't have your family when you're in North Dakota or you're in Korea. I mean, you have them, but they're not there when you're in Hawaii. Right. So it really, you rely on your faith and your relationship with God, because there are some things that happen and situations that you're put in that either you can grow or either, you can, I wouldn't say fail, but I would say learn really hard, like getting the switch off the tree. You know what I mean? I said, oh God, you've asked me to get that switch many times. Because I've taken some beatings, but I had a really amazing run. And then I did over 7 years in the Air Force. And then I transferred into the United States Public Health Service, where I had some amazing opportunities, worked for the Surgeon General of the United States under the President Obama administration, and just did a whole host of other amazing things. But I think what you asked about, me being shaped. You know what I mean? There were a lot of things that happened that if I didn't have that level of resiliency that started as a child, I feel like I didn't have a childhood. The things that I went through as an adult and ultimately getting me to retire earlier than anticipated. I was going to do 30 years. I thought I would make admiral, and things changed. Things changed dramatically in the past 4 years. So I'm just so blessed to be here.
Yeah, and I want to say, so I know I said it earlier. Thank you for your service, and so I want to reiterate that because it's a different type of person that sees the fire and runs toward it. And so when you mentioned about 9/11 happening, I remember 9/11. I remember where I was. I was just getting off work. I was working a midnight shift, just got off work, came home, laid down, my phone started going off. I answered my phone, my cousin's like, turn on the news, and so and it's crazy when you said 20 years. I was like, has it been that long? We're like, yeah, it's actually been that long, but it doesn't seem like it. But my point is, there's a different type of person that sees the fire and runs to it, and while many of us remember that day, you know um, it's even more impressive to me that not only did you remember that day, but that day was a choice to become active and going into the service instead of running away from it, like some people did. So I definitely want to say again, I appreciate you, and I'm very grateful for your service.
Thank
Um,
you.
but especially in that time, to make that choice in that time period is very what's the word I want to use? I don't know the word I want to use, but it's a great thing to me. So I definitely appreciate you. But let's go back a little bit because you talked about the resilience and being resilient, and then a little earlier you talked about even your childhood and some of the trauma that you expressed or experienced, at that time. So uh, how did your resilience kind of show up and be shaped from childhood, even doing? Because I know going to the service, that definitely was a different experience also. So it's like
Well,
you were resilient as a child, then resilient in the service, and now you are stepping into this new, phase of your life. And I'm sure there was some resilience that even come into building, your own company also. So tell us a little
absolutely.
bit about the resilience that you kind of birthed, within yourself, and also how do you kind of help others, some lessons that you can help others even with that to learn that same resilience.
Absolutely. And Ernest, you asked a really poignant question about, resilience and how that relates and how, I use that to support other people. And let me just say, you think, oh, I went through all this stuff as a child. And then something happens as an adult, and you're going on and you're wearing the mask and you have the success and you have all the
Mhm.
accolades and you have, because you're like, oh, I'm gonna be a beast. I didn't have it as a child. So let me just tell you what's gonna happen in the next phase of my life. So you're like, okay, I'm getting it, and so you don't ever think about the resiliency. You don't think about what you overcame until something nips you. It's that big dog that come and nip your ankles and you feel like you need a new foot or you need a new ankle. And that's what happened to me in 2020 when I deployed to the Navajo Nation. It was the most desolate area during the height of COVID. We didn't have prophylactics. We didn't have any immunizations. We didn't have anything. And I was sent out there by myself as the sole behavioral health provider. I was the lead for the command team, but also for 2 medical centers for all the staff. Now, I'm at the height of my career. I made it, right? And I get there and I'm in a new world because I'm like, wait a minute. The people here are dying in droves. The stories I'm hearing about their history, the stories I'm hearing about them now, they don't have running water in their homes and they're dying in droves. This is one of the most red zones in the country. So at that time, I start to have this awakening, like, at that point, and we had George Floyd going on, we had Breonna Taylor going on, we had people coming back from Afghanistan. They were starting to draw down. Wait a minute, this is what I came here for. what is going on? And all the lives that were lost, and you're hearing all this information of everything that you heard, right?
Mhm.
You're like, so you start questioning things. Like I, for myself, said, am I really serving when there's people here that are right in our country and it seems like a third world country? So that's where everything kind of started to shift for me while I was there. And I come home and I'm exercising because I mean, I experienced some trauma at that deployment. And I'm exercising. That's what I know. And my husband, he's a veteran. We're going walking. What we need to do, get on a Peloton. So guess what? One night I wake up and I try to go to the bathroom like normal, and I couldn't walk.
Mm.
I was in so much pain to the point where I couldn't walk. So guess what? I didn't. Again, I'm a strong woman. You know what I mean? I'm this strong person. I do it. I can do everything. So I crawled to the bathroom. I didn't wake my husband up. I crawled to the bathroom and I'm just there on the bathroom floor crying. I didn't know how, I couldn't get up. So he hears me crying. He comes and picks me up and he's like, what's wrong? And I'm like, I'm in so much pain. I can't walk. And so again, that didn't say, let's go to the ER. Oh, I overdid it working out. I've done races. I've done bodybuilding. You know, I can do this. I got ice packs. I got heat packs. I got Advil. So I did go to the ER a couple times. Again, they didn't see anything. Give you morphine and send you home. Follow up with your PCM. Okay. So one day I was in so much pain. And again, it was on and off, but it was very extreme. So one night my husband, or one day it was so bad. My husband's like, we're going to the military hospital this time. So he brought me to Andrews, and that's where I started my career. And so it was like, you know, kind of like a bittersweet thing, right? Coming home, really. And so they did an assessment. They transferred me to Walter Reed Medical Center. I got hospitalized. I'm there for 4 days. They have all the residents, you know, it's a training hospital. This is one of the premier medical centers for military. So all the people are coming in, they're taking their notes. Can we bring the residents? I'm like, yeah, because I was a resident. So I don't mind them coming in. So 4 days go by. And the doctor comes in and says, Captain Harrell, we can't find anything. We're sending you home today. What do you mean? You're giving me the highest level pain meds. I can't walk. And you're sending me home? Oh, well, you just got home from deployment, so we're going to send in the psychiatrist. I said, I'm a mental health provider. If this is a somatic symptom, then bring that psychiatrist in because we need to figure this out.
Right.
So the psychiatrist comes in, but I told them they could euthanize me. I said, no one would be able to deal with that pain. No one. It was extreme. And at that point, I knew I was passing. I was making amends with God. I was texting friends and family. There were people coming to visit me, but I never said anything to anyone. You know what I mean? So when you talk about healing, you talk about faith, you talk about resiliency, I had made amends. I'm like, okay, I can't live like this. So it's time to go. It's time to go. And so I had to advocate like many of us do, many of us in the community. And that's why I do holistic wellness now. You do have to advocate. You know your body more than anyone else. But can you imagine? Guess what I had? Guess what the diagnosis was?
I can't even guess because I'm just like, you've been in the hospital for 4 days and you can't walk and they can't find what's wrong with you. I can't guess either.
So I had a septic hip. So if you've ever heard of anyone with sepsis, a lot of people, you know, celebrities in the news have had it more recently. When you get sepsis, it's a matter of hours or days that you transition out of here. So I would have, even if I had to advocate for myself, I couldn't be a patient. I had to talk to them, like use the medical language. I worked in all the medical centers my whole career. And I couldn't be a patient because what I knew was that if they sent me to the mental health ward, I would have died because they would not have treated it. So once they found out what it was, they they're running in they're running in. Everybody's getting me ready for surgery. Because again, I was about to be out of here. I was gonna be, you wouldn't be talking to me right now.
Right,
So
right.
I had two surgeries, major surgeries back to back on my hip that same week. So I lost a lot of blood. I was in the hospital for a month and a half, but then I had to go to rehab. So I was inpatient again. And then I think because my body was in so much shock and I was on antibiotics intravenously 24 hours straight for about 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks, my body went into shock. And so that was the fall of 2020. The next year in the spring, I got hospitalized again. And I had three surgeries that year on my hip. I got a full hip replacement in November. And then I had a whole mirage of medical problems after that. I got diagnosed with sarcoidosis. They thought it was cancer though, so I had to take oral chemo, prednisone. I had Bell's palsy. I thought I was dying and they weren't telling me. You know how you're hospitalized and the room is silent and nobody really wants to say anything. So I'm like, if I need palliative care, you need to tell me. And but to God be the glory, I'm here.
Yes.
And I was able to heal myself holistically, losing over almost 80 pounds without exercise because I'm in pain. I couldn't walk. I couldn't do anything. So I use holistic modalities, stuff that our grandparents use, our ancestors, ancient, Chinese secrets as well. And, I talked to you before. I'm in my PhD for mind body medicine. And so I believe, no, I don't believe, I know we have the ability to heal ourselves. I'm not saying not to work with your provider because if you got a septic hip, you got to take some meds, but work in conjunction so that you can transition into more holistic resources and treatments because those meds, I mean, my kidney, they're like looking now, like, how's your kidney functioning? You know? So that's what I do with the Blissful Life Consulting and offering holistic wellness services and coaching. I help people to heal themselves, work with God. God told there's not a one size fits all modality. And sometimes, with the spiritual piece, I think when we talk about mental health, we talk about resiliency. I think if you don't factor in the spiritual piece, then you're missing the boat. You're going to
Yeah.
keep coming back and forth. We're going to be on that circle, that hamster wheel.
Right, right. So I want to go back a little bit because you talked about having a septic hip, if you don't mind, because I don't know what that is. You know what I mean? So I know my audience probably don't know what it is either. So what exactly is septic, and how does it affect people to the point that they can pass away from it?
Yeah. Yeah, because I think who was it? I think Christopher Williams, probably Albie Shore, like they were in a coma with theirs. So it's when there's a toxic bacteria that's in your body, but it's so toxic to where once it hits your organs, it will shut your organs down. So what they had to do with me was they had to check my heart before they did the surgery because they would have had to do heart surgery as well. And so once it gets in that bloodstream, and it's like basically having, gasoline or pneumonia that's in your blood system. And once it comes up and it hits your organs, you could be in a coma, and you can die. And so I've heard of, after the experience, because I didn't really know a lot about it, and I'm not a physician per se.
Mhm.
But what I can say is that, you want to make sure that if you have something like that, number one, a lot of times they may not be able to recognize it in regular tests, but it feels like I can't even explain it. It's to the point where the pain is so severe that it's like you almost take yourself out of your body because it's so, even with the meds did not work at all. it may have calmed me down for 2 seconds, but it was so extreme. It's like you want to elevate. You want your spirit to go out of this shell because it hurts so bad. And so, but regardless of whatever diagnosis, I feel like a lot of times we're not heard by our medical professionals. I mean, I'm a medical professional. I know a lot of, there's a lot of stress in the medical community, and we're being asked to see more and more patients every day. And it's
Yeah.
hard, right? You're going from one patient to the other. And, so sometimes when you know if something's wrong, and if you feel like this provider or this hospital is not hearing you, then that's your opportunity to look it up, do a little research. You may not know for sure. But it's funny that I talked to several providers after and just explained my story, and people were like, oh, that sounds like sepsis. So it just depends. It depends on who you get, but it's your responsibility to make
Yeah.
sure that you are taken care of. Because if you put that burden on somebody else, you're gonna lose every time.
Yeah. You brought up something that I want to ask about it since you mentioned it, because it is a conversation that I've had not too long ago, and it's like, who helps the helper, And so with the therapists and counselors, especially in this time period where everyone is taking mental health more serious,
Yes.
and again, you guys are being asked to look at more and more patients. But like, well, who looks after you guys? You know what I mean? Because I know that takes a toll also when you're, trying to help, everyone with their mental health and make sure they're okay. But after so many patients and things, it's like, okay, I need somebody to talk to myself. So how kind of does that work? Do you guys have like a internal not committee, but community, should I say, that kind of check on each other and look after each other?
Yes, I actually just did a talk for the National Association of Social Workers in Maryland, and we had this very discussion because after, even with COVID, like we've all struggled, everybody. It wasn't like, oh, one group of people, like everybody has had a shift. Everybody, is going through kind of reevaluating their lives for many different reasons. And, depending on where you work, some like in the military hospitals, and I haven't worked at every military hospital, but I can tell you, we have like a multidisciplinary kind of team meeting, every week. And sometimes it's multiple times a week, depending on what's going on. But that's your time to really relate to your coworkers, and talk about those, especially those challenging cases when you're having this transference, counter transference, when you're feeling something inside due to a relationship that you have with a patient, or something that they're telling you, and it's affecting you in a certain way. Some people who have more of a private organization, or you work for yourself, there is peer-to-peer kind of support. And so you might be a provider, I'm a provider, and we decide we want to meet every week and kind of, go over our cases, not necessarily violating any, confidentiality laws. And then sometimes we really need to seek our own support. I think
Mhm.
in the military, it's a little bit more challenging, right? Because, where are you going? Like, you're the provider, you're the leader in that facility. Where can you go? They're not going to probably send you off base. You probably have to fight to get off base. But sometimes in certain cases, I think it's very important to, make sure that you may seek help. And it doesn't necessarily, there's all different providers. You can
Mhm.
faith-based, you can go to your church. Our church, has resources and mental health resources available. You can go to clergy, you can go to community leaders. There are nonprofit organizations in your community. So when I had my grandmothers, I called it, the back porch counseling.
Mhm.
That our elders, they knew something was wrong. You didn't even have to say anything. And you talked to grandma, and after you were done, you just felt like you could take on the world. And so whatever works for you, but there are available resources, for you, or, for other peers. And what I think is important is when people to acknowledge and be obedient. Sometimes people say to us, something's going on, you're not the same. And you're like, oh, I'm all right, I'll be all right. But they wouldn't be saying that if they didn't know that something was really up, because they would never mention it, right? And so just be present, acknowledge when someone is telling you, because we may not always know or recognize for ourselves, the helpers per se. We may not recognize when something's a little bit different with us. So I think just, acknowledging that, and acknowledging the support that people want to give you.
Good, good. And I know as a helper myself,
Yes.
that's one of the hardest things is to accept help, because it's like, no, I'm the one, I mean? Like, I'm the helper. I'm supposed to be doing this. And so sometimes it's hard for us to let down our guards and be like, okay, I'm in a position now where I need to be receiving, so I'm not pouring out of an empty cup and all of those things. Yeah. I wanna talk about one more thing. I heard you mention it. It's a phrase that I'm just kind of recently becoming familiar with, and you talked about modalities and somatic modalities, should I say? Is that something that you use? Because I just met a friend of mine. Well, she's a friend of mine now, but I met her not too long ago, and she has a practice that she does somatic movements and things like that to help, with the healing process and the spaces where she works. And so I'm new to the whole idea of it, and I've been learning a little stuff from her. But
we're gonna bring you in. We're gonna bring you all the way in.
So do you also use somatic movement? And for my audience, if you could kind of explain a little bit what that is, just so they know, so they can learn too. It might be something that they may want to look into.
Yeah. So there's many different modalities, and I've used so many different modalities and I'm glad that you're acknowledging that there are other resources, somatic, breath work. There is yoga, there is mindfulness, there's mindful moving, mindfulness-based practices. There are so many different resources. So for myself, I've used, a lot of different movement practices, and many different, modalities, because again, I'm in my PhD for this. So I've actually used so many different. What I would say holistically about all of the modalities is they incorporate the mind, body, and spirit. So when you're working out, you may be acknowledging more of just the body part, not be acknowledging what it's doing for your mind. You may not be acknowledge what it's doing for your spirit. And so there our body holds. And if those of you who are wondering, there is a great book called The Body Keeps the Score. And so your body, whether you have trauma, stress, anything, your body keeps the score. Your body remembers internally all the things that you've experienced. And when you tend to be like many of us in our community, especially people of color, we don't ask for help a whole lot of times. You hold all of that in. And so people say, how did I get so sick? I was at the top of my game. I had, the job, the spouse, the relationship, the children. I had it all. And then my body just breaks down one day. And so those somatic practices, mindful practices, they allow you to be in tune with those things and mindfully release some of those things that are within you. So there's many different, things that, again, some people still need talk therapy and things like that. But I want to tell you about a special resource that I found. My coach actually told me about this resource. I feel like this. So one of our missions is to make sure that, wellness and holistic wellness services are available to everyone. You see people like in the news, Tom Brady, he has the Tom Brady Institute, and you can go there and get all the, it's like, wait a minute, you broke your face today and you back on the field tomorrow. How are they doing it? So there's something that's called the multi-sensory wellness experience. And I'm actually doing a retreat in Santa Monica, California this weekend for women. And what it is now you want to talk about release and being able to go to your subconscious level, to go down inward and understand, what God is telling you, your inner God, and what God is, has for you. With your healing practice, because sometimes we are experiencing challenges because we're not in alignment. And that was a big piece. And so with the Reality Center, what they do is they use sound, they use vibration, and they use lighting to really simulate kind of almost like a psychedelic experience. It's not psychedelic, it's not ayahuasca, anything like that. But it's basically like if you were going to a massage place and they were putting you in a subconscious state to where, because that's when we hear. You notice you get all your ideas right before you go to sleep, right when you wake up, you're writing all these things down. Oh, I have this bright idea. It's because you're able to hear from your inner calling. You're able to hear from God. And so that's what we're going to be doing. But yes, I've tried so many resources, so many different things, and they've just been amazing for me. And I would encourage everybody. And if you don't know kind of what works for you, if you have someone else in your space that kind of does, healing, coaching, transformation, all of those things, to really help you to figure out what's going to be the best modality for you and to see what's available in your community. Some people have sound bowl healing resources. We have a veteran mobile spa wellness event coming up. We do a lot of charity work in the community and giving back. I think that's part of healing, right? God is giving you something. What are you giving back? So, doing those things, and we're going to have sound bowl healing there as well. So there's so many, and you don't have to go anywhere. There's YouTube, whatever music that brings you down to that meditative state or prayer state. Those are the things that I feel like have been really helpful, along with aromatherapy. There's so many different things, but it's exciting to know that we're starting to look at other options for our healing.
Yeah, and I definitely think we're in a place now that we have to, because I don't personally, I don't feel the system necessarily has the best interest of the people at heart. And so when you think about the medicines and things, like I went to the doctor for a checkup not too long ago, and my sugar was up. And I tested it before I went. I'm like, oh, my sugar is high. And so I was trying to bring it down, and I couldn't get it to come down. And I went to the doctor, and he like gave me like 3 different meds, and just like pounding me all these meds. I'm like, I'm not taking all this stuff, and I'm like, no, I'm good. I'll figure it out, And so I kind of went on my own little diet and cleansing, myself without taking all the meds, and brought it down. And I was just like, this is not in our best interest all the time. It's like, anyway, I'm not going to go that way. So
this is important. This is important. This is an important discussion.
Yeah, and I think we are looking and being exposed now more to other ways of healing. Like I said, I do have my friend that does the somatics, and I have a friend that does the sound bowl. Yeah, sound bowl.
Sound bowl, yes. It's so
that does amazing. That also. So, yeah. So I think that is good for us to look into different ways to heal, because we were created with the ability to heal ourselves. And over time, we started leaning to other means, but I think we already had everything that we needed inside, the whole time. So we talked about, well, first of all, the name of the place that you mentioned, the multi-sensory, what was the name again? Because I wanted to look into
It's
that.
called the Reality Center. And so
Reality Center. Okay.
please look that up. It's in Santa Monica. Let Jonathan and them know that I sent you. But I want to expose people who would not even know these resources exist. I want to expose us to these resources. So,
Okay. Good, good. I will, and to my listeners, I'm going to look it up. I'm going to make sure I put the links in the description, as well as the link to the Body Keep Score, because this is part of like the third podcast episode where I've talked to somebody, they brought up that book. So
ding, ding, ding.
that will be in the description also, as well as another book, because you are working on a project right now that should be out soon. So tell us a little bit about your project.
Yeah, so I am doing a teaching memoir, and it's called God Has My Six. And it is, really highlighting my journey to transformation and healing and, my pivot in life. But it also is incorporating, the healing modalities. And if somebody is, they know they have an inner calling, that God is telling them their life was meant for more.
Mm-hmm.
If you are, everybody thinks, oh, you're so successful and all of these things, but you feel so empty inside. There's more, but you don't have clarity, or you're in complete darkness and you don't know where to start. This is going to be the book for you. I believe that we can have heaven on earth. I think, when you think about suicides, when you think about, people who succumb to taking drugs or in any other things to just mask the pain, because it's very traumatic to live on earth a lot of times. I think we're taught, oh, when I die, I'm going to heaven, or whatever, is the thought process. I'll be free when that time comes. So when you're in darkness, you're thinking, well, I just want to be free. But what if we have the opportunity to find that level of freedom here on earth? Maybe that is the maze. Maybe that is the question. Maybe that is the test. If when you are obedient and in alignment, maybe that's the test. How do you get in alignment to find your freedom? Because when you're walking in your calling, it's not going to feel like work. It's not going to feel like this is hard. It's not going to feel like, oh, I got to get up on Monday. You're going to be jumping out of the bed. You're not going to want to sleep. You're going to be waking up all night. There are times, Ernest, where I have these all over the house. Okay, they're journals. And I wake up in the middle of the night and I'm either getting my phone and I'm putting the notes down. I'm taking notes because I'm so excited now. I did serve and I had a really good life, but I think I was made to serve in a higher capacity. And it wasn't until that near-death experience happened that it was like, oh, there's more? So guess what? I was in such darkness that it was like, either I'm not going to be here, or let's see, is there a possibility that there's more? Well, guess what? It's either the red or the blue pill. Which one you want to take? So that's where we are now. And I'm excited, more excited than ever. I think you have the opportunity to live the life you want to live. Now, and saying that, this dream life, that's my logo for my community, Dream Life Manifested. It's not going to come easy. You have to give up your old life in order to gain your new life. So that's going to mean a lot of pain and loss. People that you may have been friends with, relationships for years. Your circle is not going to look the same once you decide to be obedient and take that path. It's not like I'm like, oh, you got to give up everything. But sometimes you just need to be in a position where you can take some time and just think for you and away from all the noise of whatever everybody's telling you in society and all the people who continue, you are their helper, right? You don't have time to think about yourself. So that's the real test of life. And it's just exciting. Once you realize that, it's just so exciting with the possibilities. Every day you wake up, God, what do you have for me today? What miracles are coming to me today? And you will see them. If you expect them, they will come. So I'm just excited to share
I
that.
love it. I
Yeah.
love it, and I'm glad that you did because I'm just thinking now, and I'm like, I agree 100%. I'm on my way to that space, right? Full time. I'm there, but I'm on my way even more. So a couple of the things that I've always wanted to do over the last week or so, I've kind of been doing those things, right? And so I mentioned to you offline that I recently did my first TEDx talk, which was something
Yes.
I was.
Congratulations.
Thank you, thank you. And I went on my first hike, which is something else that I wanted to do. And I also started more recently. I've always been a mentor, but I actually joined a mentor organization. So now I'm doing it like not full time, but on a regular basis, a weekly basis, should I say?
Yeah.
And so just in the space where I'm at now, like you said, just being in that space when you wake up and it doesn't feel like work, and you just like, I'm really liking my life right now, And so
Yes.
that's where I am, and I think I'm walking more into that season, and so I'm really looking forward to it. So I agree with you 100%, and I'm excited. I want to say thank you, first of all, for being on. Thank you for sharing your story and your expertise. I want you to have the last word, and I want you to leave us with a word of inspiration, motivation, however you feel, and with your social media handles and all of your information where my audience can follow you and stay in touch with you. So I'll let you think about that for a second, how you want to leave us. To my audience, thank you guys once again for tuning in to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. If you ever thought of starting your own podcast, then you might want to get your copy of the Start Your Podcast Now ebook. I wrote the ebook because I was often being asked, how do we start a podcast? And so I just made it simple for myself, and I wrote it and put it in the book where you can find out how you can start your own podcast in only 3 steps. I made it very, very simple for you. You can find your copy, get your copy at ebooks by ejames.com. Again, that's ebooks by ejames.com to get your copy of the Start Your Podcast Now ebook and start your own podcast. All right. Also, make sure you guys go to my main website, which is dealhealfulfill.org. Again, that's dealhealfulfill.org, which is my motto, and also the motto of our podcast is to help people to deal, heal, and fulfill. So make sure you guys go there. You can find out more information about all the things that I have going on, and also see how you can book me to come out to be a speaker or to facilitate a workshop at your school or organization. Again, that's dealhealfulfill.org. Also, again, make sure you guys go to ebooks by ejames.com to check out all of our ebooks that we have there. Besides just the podcast ebook, I also have an ebook called The Core Four, which is the core 4 values that every daughter should get from her father, which is also one of the books that we talk about on the Girl Dad Discussions podcast. So make sure you guys go to ebooks by ejames.com in order to check out all of the ebooks that I have there that I've written, and you guys can check them out. What else? The Deal to Heal Tees. Deal2healtees.com is our inspirational t-shirt line, as well as our t-shirts, our podcast merch t-shirts. You can get a t-shirt with our podcast logo for the Girl Dad Discussions podcast, as well as the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. But also there are plenty other inspirational t-shirts that are available there. Put some inspiration in your situation. Wear an inspirational tee and be inspired all day. That is our tagline. So make sure you go to Deal to Heal Tees. That's Deal, the number two, healtees.com in order to check out all of our t-shirts there. Last but not least, over the last couple of years, I've had the pleasure of working with an organization called the Forgiveness Mission. And what we do, we have free virtual workshops every other month talking about everything regarding forgiveness, forgiveness of self, forgiveness of others, even how forgiveness affects our bodies, which is one of the things we're talking about today, our bodies. So you guys can make sure you go to forgivenessmission.com in order to sign up for our free virtual workshops every other month. So whenever you're listening to this, either one just passed or one is coming up, but you can go to forgivenessmission.com to sign up for that, or just go to Eventbrite and look up Forgiveness Workshop, and you will see the Forgiveness Workshop held by the Forgiveness Mission. Is absolutely free, but the information is priceless. So make sure you guys go there and check out the Forgiveness Mission at forgivenessmission.com. So that being said, Malaysia, once again, I definitely appreciate you. Thank you again for your service. Thank you for coming on and share your knowledge and expertise. I want you to have the last word, so the floor is yours.
Thank you, Ernest, and thank you again for the opportunity to be on the Deal to Heal show with Ernest James. He is just so amazing, and he's inspired me today, just meeting him. So one of the things I would offer, I always have to kind of think about what God is telling me for this particular environment. But I think, so I know that we all have a higher calling, and it may seem like a cliche, but what I want to offer today is to give you permission, to follow your calling, follow your God-given mission, your divine calling, your divine assignment. And, you don't have to ask anybody outside of you about what that mission is. You don't need to run it by your neighbor. You don't need to run it by your salon, your hairdresser, your nail person, or your barber, or your clergy. You do not have to run it by anyone. God is going to give that message to you. My offer is for you to follow that divine calling, to listen, and to accept the assignment, because once you do, your doors are going to open, and your life is going to be so miraculous. You're not going to know how to start this podcast, and you're going to meet someone. You're going to come across this podcast, and you're going to make a podcast, and you're going to meet millions of people, and you're going to touch the lives of millions of people. So that is my offer this evening. And in order to get in touch with me, of course, you can find me on Instagram, on all the social media platforms, Malaysia Harell or Malaysia H. Harell. I am on all social media platforms. I also have a website, www.malaysiaharell.com. And if you're looking to get holistic wellness services or to offer them to your community or your staff, www.blissfullifeconsulting.com. And when my book is launched, by the time you see this podcast, God Has My Six, you will know that God is the person that you need to rely on through this next phase when you decide to accept that higher calling on your life.
All right. I love it. I love it. All of Malaysia's information will be in the description. I'm telling you guys got to go to the descriptions. It's a lot of information there. So make sure you guys go to the descriptions. All of Malaysia's information will be there, especially the book when it comes out. We're going to make sure we have that link in the description so you guys can get your copy of God Has My Six. And we can end it no better than that. To my listeners, thank you guys once again for tuning in to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast, where our mission is to help you to deal, heal, and fulfill, to deal with your problems, to heal from the pain, and to fulfill your purpose. Until next time, you guys be blessed. Thanks for listening to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. Remember to listen, like, subscribe, and share. This episode has been brought to you by Deal to Heal Teas. Put some inspiration in your situation. Wear an inspirational tea and be inspired all day. Let's go to dealtohealteas.myshopify.com. Remember, our mission is to help you to deal, heal, and fulfill. Deal with your problem, heal from the pain, and fulfill your purpose. Thanks for listening.